Martin Sorrell, let me ask you this, because you had the pleasure of listening to the Prime Minister, not just here in London, but also in the US. His message to foreign investors, whether it's the UK or the US, pretty much has been consistent. But do you believe now that brand India and the consistency that it perhaps lacked, do you believe that foreign investors are now starting to believe that, yes, what the government says, the government has got a plan to execute, this government has execution capabilities, because that has sort of let India down in the past?
Well, it's the vision's there, certainly. I mean, Prime Minister Modi, just like, to be fair, Prime Minister Cameron are both great communicators, and they do. Modi is a rock star. He's taken New York by storm,
and now Wembley.
This afternoon he'll take London by storm too, if he hasn't done already. So, but there is this strong vision, but it's like trying to run, if I can draw the analogy with running a company, you can have, this great debate about whether strategy is more important than implementation or vice versa. Both are important. So you can have a great strategy, a great vision. The question is implementation. And I think the question marks that foreign investors have are about bench strength. Is it an individual? Prime Minister has run a state very successfully. Can you apply, again, it's about if you were running a small company well, and can you run a large company well? So there are question marks over it, but after the first year, I think the atmosphere, and as Analjit and others have pointed out, the atmosphere around the forum is extremely strong. I want to just come back to a point that you raised before. This may not be what you want to be.
No, go ahead.
Let me go ahead. So about the UK. The UK has to get its act together, because whatever happens on the Brexit referendum, whether we stay in or we come out, and I personally favour obviously staying in, but whatever the decision is, our trade patterns will have to change, right? Our trade patterns are still directed to the EU.
Which is why I found it interesting yesterday that Prime Minister Cameron said we should move forward with the India-EU FTA, because we don't know whether you'd be in the EU or not.
But you have to do both. It's not a question about is it Europe or is it the BRICS and Next 11. It's both. And our trade flows are not strong enough with India. Now, historically, the ties of India, and I were talking about this just before we went on air, historically, our ties with India are very strong. There may have been some issues one way and the other, but they are basically, the historical ties are very strong. We mustn't let other countries get one up on us on it, and we must re-establish those links and strengthen those links. So the issue, if I look at WPP, India will, in 25 years' time, maybe sooner, will be the most populous country on the planet. It will have the third largest GDP. It's currently our seventh largest market. It should be, in the fullness of time, our third largest market, at least. And we know we have a disproportionate share there, so it should be even more in the context of WPP. This is fundamentally important. So your number, the 9 billion number, in my view, is irrelevant. It should serve as a signal. If it is less than people were expecting, it should serve as a wake-up call to get our act together. And really, because what was clear in the forum, you heard it from the Indian CEOs, you heard it from the UK CEOs, and indeed the European CEOs like Vittoria and others. It was clear that the potential is enormous. And I still tie the future of WPP. It's a third of our business of the BRICS and Next 11 already. I still tie it, despite the media's sort of continues to prompt us. And the other final point is this: India is the last BRIC standing. It's the BRIC market that is the strongest. And if India fails, we all fail, so we better get it right.
We better get it right. Anil Agarwal, let me ask you this, because you've already invested $30 billion in India. It's a downward cycle as far as commodities are concerned, so things are not looking great for the commodity business. But I want to ask you about this ease of doing business in India, dealing with state governments, federal cooperation. Have things really changed on the ground at this point in time? I know for a fact that you've been waiting for over a decade now to be able to get the government to offload its residual stake on the two companies that you actually bought more than 15 years ago as part of the government's disinvestment program. There's been no forward movement on that. Are you getting disappointed with the pace of change today?
No, first of all, as you said, the commodity cycle definitely on downturn, and India should have a long-term view. They sometimes enjoy that the gold has come down and the oil has come down, so they are saving money. This is the time to build up. This is the time to create our energy security. This is the time. India has a tremendous resource. Everybody thinks that India is a market. This is the time has come where India should have their own resource to build up the resource, the infrastructure. If you see in the China, it is on the, from China consumption, as I mentioned, is only 10%. So you can imagine the amount of investment can go in a democratic country, especially the biggest position what Britain has. Britain doesn't have money. What it has an amazing credibility, and the London Stock Exchange, we have raised $30 billion. It does not come from UK. It has come with the structure what UK has. This is a great opportunity which all the investors are looking to invest in India. And if on the platform of a British company, if you raise fund to invest in India, your multiples are better. People will, if you deliver, it will be tremendous opportunity for all the British company. See, US has invested tremendous in China. This is a time for Britain to catch hold of India. 1.5 billion people, India subcontinent. And you can imagine in the resource sector, you can imagine in the infrastructure sector, the Make in India sector, tremendous. And as far as I fully agree, India has to reform more. You know, India always look at for the future, the new investor to come in. But for the existing company, they have to do more. They have to be more alert that the existing people should be given patience hearing. Their problem should be resolved. They're very good at attracting new investment, but they have to go align with the existing company also.
Thank you very much for your suggestions. Thank you very much for the ideas that you've brought to the table in terms of what both sides need to do to build on this partnership. I think finally it will boil down to execution. There is intent, there's plenty of it, there is enthusiasm, there's plenty of it, but it will finally boil down to execution at the end of the Indian government to improve the operating environment, and at the end of the UK to really get people to start to look at India in a different light and get over perhaps the past prejudice that they may have had. But appreciate you joining us here on the CNBC TV 18 special discussion. Many thanks to KPMG and to UKIBC for helping us put this together for you this morning. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate your time. With that, it's time for us to wrap up this edition of London Calling from all of us here. Goodbye. Many thanks for watching.